BetTheBoardPodcast.com. Outkick, that's where you find Todd Fuhrman. You follow him on Twitter at Todd Fuhrman. He's with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. After the Tyreek Hill trade, Fuhrman, what do the Vegas odds say is the NFC team to face the Dolphins in the Super Bowl?
The Dolphins' price will inevitably move, but it's great to give your quarterback all of these weapons. The question being, do you have the quarterback that can actually get Tyreek Hill the ball?
We're about to find out.
Stephen Ross, to his credit, wanted to go out there. He wanted to try and build a winner. I'm just not sure he did it in the best way possible. I know the Dolphins had a surplus of draft capital that was somewhat expendable. At the same time, spending $30 million annually on a wide receiver and one that's, to a certain extent, a one-trick pony, albeit the best at what he does as a deep threat, is going to be a very interesting situation. I do wonder now if the Dolphins are second-guessing giving Cedric Wilson a contract as a free agent as well.
You know, I'm seeing the Dolphins at 50-1 right now, and I'm sure this is before the move, but I mean, they're not going to move much. What, 45-1 now, maybe?
No, you may see a couple of books come down in price only because that initial buzz, not only with Tyreek Hill, but getting Taron Armstead in there again, a 30-year-old offensive lineman who I think that contract will be great early on, but still a lot of questions to get answered along with a first-year head coach. I'm hoping that their division odds get shortened and it opens up a little bit more opportunity to back a team like the Bills.
Well, on the other side, what does it do for the Chiefs? I mean, are we closing the book on their window a little bit? Are they still a Super Bowl contender? Because their division has gotten really, really tough.
Well, see, that is the smart question to ask in all of this.
Thank you.
And Kansas City's odds probably won't move nearly enough to reflect how difficult it'll be to replace Tyreek Hill and what he means to that offense. I think Patrick Mahomes' feet will truly be put to the fire now because you look at that receiving room and Mecole Hardman clearly will have to take the next step in his maturation. You're going to have to hope that Juju Smith-Schuster can be a number one. And if you're Patrick Mahomes right now sitting at home, your biggest fear is that Juju Smith-Schuster and your brother are going to be doing TikTok videos and you're not going to have a receiver that you truly trust to keep a defense honest when you're facing them, knowing how deep that division has become.
Andy married that girl I don't like either, the one that sprays champagne out on the common folks, the peasants.
You know, that all happened. She's been with him since day one, and that's Patrick's issue that he can sort through one way or another. If he doesn't say that, hey, look, I want to leave you at home, maybe that'll help. But I do think you get Patrick Mahomes now playing with a chip on his shoulder because all the eyes will be on him, and you cannot take anything away from him or give him all the credit if he goes out there and can't perform without some of his key weapons.
All right, Todd Fuhrman is with us, so we are obviously going to talk NCAA Tournament with Fuhrman. The most intriguing game on the board for the Sweet 16 to you, Fuhrman, is what?
For me, it is actually going to be Duke and Texas Tech. And when you look at this particular matchup, so many question marks abound. Duke has the best players of any team remaining in the field, and that's not telling you guys something you don't already know. 5 guys forecasted to be top 40 picks in the NBA entry draft. But can Duke commit to playing defense? We haven't seen it for extended stretches this year. We saw glimpses of it in their comeback win against Michigan State, but they're going to get tested physically from the opening tip against Texas Tech, and this is going to be the true illustration of, does the better team outperform the better individual talent? There's a reason Texas Tech is listed as a favorite here, but at the same time, history not on the side of the Red Raiders. We've seen it 6 times in the NCAA tournament where a 3 seed has been favored over a 2. That 3 seed just 1-5 straight up. Duke, though, will have to get that monkey off their back. They have never won a game in the Pacific time zone in the NCAA tournament with Coach K as their head coach.
Wow. Major bracket implications with one of the early games on Thursday night, Michigan-Villanova. There's nothing I trust about Villanova, about Michigan, but Brown has Villanova winning the national championship. I need Villanova, the train, to stop here. Michigan's catching 5. The number seems right, Fuhrman. And I know everybody's going to back the 2 seed in Villanova. Does Michigan have enough gas to win 3 straight in this tournament?
Yeah, there's a lot of public support for Villanova. There's no doubt about it. Some of the folks at MGM say that it's going to be one of the trendier picks as far as the general public looking to lay the points, yet their number hasn't budged at 4.5. I think this is a question of which X's and O's coach you like a little bit better. So for me, Jay Wright gets a slight nod, but what does Jay Wright do to try and neutralize Hunter Dickinson? He doesn't have a ton of size on his roster, but he does have the better guard play. Colin Gillespie has been here and done that. Of course, Gillespie didn't play his prominent role back in 2018 when they beat Michigan to win the national championship, but he does know what it takes to win on this stage. And Devontae Jones, his status still very much up in the air, returned from a concussion in Michigan's game against Tennessee, and then naturally gets himself into a dust-up with his teammate that he can't finish that game. So as this number leaks out, I would make a slight case for Michigan myself, but probably a contest that I won't tangle with. And the main reason for that, guys, from an ATS standpoint, Villanova has a chance to break the all-time NCAA record for free throw percentage and proficiency for a season. There's nothing more irritating than when you have an underdog who finds themselves down by 2 or 3 points, and that deficit balloons from 3 to 7 because Villanova just doesn't miss in the final minute.
What are you hearing? What are all you Vegas people hearing about the touch foul with the Arizona player going to second base with the TCU cheerleader? Is it going to cost him a game?
You know what? I don't think there's going to be any suspensions there, but you never have any idea what could take place in the NCAA tournament, the way they hand out some of these suspensions. I don't think we'll see much in that particular ballpark.
Shut that right down.
Hey, with that said, I mean, Houston is the play there. And look, they might not get by Arizona, but Arizona was so bad on the boards against TCU, and this Houston team is relentless.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, when you look at it, and this total is kind of in no man's land, we've seen great two-way action there. Some folks looking to go over 144, 144.5. Others looking to go under. Houston, to your point, LT, is extremely physical. They get to the offensive glass, and I think it's going to put Tommy Lloyd in a very interesting spot. Does he elect to go with a slightly bigger lineup to try and neutralize some of that edge, or does he go small ball, hoping that he's got more difference makers and shot makers than what Kelvin Sampson and company will bring to the table? There's no doubt Houston was grossly underseeded as a 5. You see that reflected in this number. But honestly, for me to bet Houston, I wanted it 3 at minimum. I think odds makers have done an outstanding job pricing this game at 1.5. And I don't want to ignore Arizona's ability to get out and transition if Houston decides they want to crash the offensive glass to make up for some of their shooting deficiencies.
Todd Fuhrman with us, BetTheBoardPodcast.com. Also, Outkick, he's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. The only underdog bigger than Arkansas is St. Peter's. Am I right about that? Is that how big a long shot this might be for the Hogs?
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas no doubt has their work cut out for them. When you look at the potential road that they would have just to even get to the Final Four, massive underdogs here against Gonzaga. They would be substantial dogs against the winner of Texas Tech Duke. And I think this Arkansas team, when you look at their first 2 wins of the tournament, hey, look, this time of year, any win is a big win. But what did Arkansas prove in those victories? They had to escape Vermont, who from the American East, it's not exactly a who's who of college basketball. Against New Mexico State, they made a grand total of 14 field goals from the floor and needed to convert 22 free throws to find a way to slip by an Aggies team that only scored 48 points in that contest. And the one thing about Arkansas, so much of what they do is predicated on wreaking havoc and creating pressure. Gonzaga doesn't turn the basketball over. Gonzaga's got a couple of bigs in Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren in the middle who are going to make life difficult for an Arkansas team that's undersized. And you guys know as well as I do that JT Note has a knack for getting into foul trouble. They don't shoot the ball well from the outside. I know Coach Musselman is taking the us against the world mentality, but I think Gonzaga got their wake-up call against Memphis, and I really look for the Zags to win this game by double digits.
Now, I'm a little burned by the fact that I had 5 tickets with Texas on them in parlays this past week, but what's up with Purdue? Because I'm an old man who's filled out my brackets for years, and I've believed in Purdue before. They've cost me many bracket challenges over the years, and now they get St. Peter's in the Sweet 16. Is this Purdue team legit, or they just really haven't been tested yet?
No, I think this Purdue team is real good. Now, they did underwhelm from an ATS standpoint over the final month of Big Ten play, where I don't believe they covered a single point spread during that stretch. And while they do leave a lot to be desired defensively, you have an inside-outside combination that's tough to argue with. Jaden Ivey has been outstanding, going to be a lottery pick at the next level. Travion Williams has been tremendous as well. And Zach Edey, despite not offering a ton of upside as far as his offensive capabilities, is still a big body that's tough to try and reconcile when you're St. Peter's and the largest guy you have on your roster for Shaheen Holloway is 6'7". So this number, though, I don't think you're stealing anything laying the points here with Purdue. St. Peter's is going to be the trendiest underdog from what I've been told already. People love the Cinderella story, but on some level, rubber has to meet the road, and this Peacocks team doesn't bring much to the table offensively. They were extremely fortunate, in my opinion, to beat Kentucky, given the Wildcats' inability to make open shots and convert from the foul line. So I think Purdue moves on, and I really believe for a team that I actually wasn't willing to buy in on either has an excellent chance to get to the Final Four, especially if UCLA is banged up and North Carolina regresses at all from the three-point line.
Speaking of those two teams, the two late games on Friday, both numbers sitting at 2.5 right now. You've got an 11-10 with Iowa State and Miami, and then you mentioned North Carolina and UCLA. Those, to me, are two really difficult games to handicap.
Yeah, and I'm 100% in agreement with you. The UNC-UCLA game, if UCLA was 100%, you'd be looking at the Bruins at 3.5, 4-point favorite. And to be honest, I'd have no problem laying those points. The problem for the Bruins right now is that Johnny Juzang hasn't been himself since returning from injury, has scored in single digits in 3 of those 6 games. So Jaime Jaquez has kind of taken over a little bit of that scoring role instead of just being that lockdown defender. If his ankle slows him down a little bit, which I expect it will, if he's even available, given some of Mick Cronin's comments, it puts a lot more pressure on the likes of a Jules Bernard or Tiger Campbell, some nice role players, but guys that you don't necessarily trust. But I do think mixed physicality and such can make life difficult for UNC. I would lean towards UCLA, even if Jaquez can't go, if the market moves in that direction and closes, in that 1.5 range. As far as Iowa State, Miami, double-digit seeds here doing battle. Iowa State hasn't scored 60 points yet in the big dance, but yet here they are. TJ Otzelberger's team wants to turn you over. They want to play out in transition. Problem for them, Miami goes 4 guards, and Miami's guards are extremely veteran. They don't turn the basketball over. They facilitate things on the offensive end, and I think when you have a floor general like Charlie Moore, it's a difficult out. Problem is this number opened with Iowa State a 1-point favorite in some books, guys. Miami now a 2.5-point favorite. You're not stealing any value laying the points here. I think if you can find Miami on the money line, that would be my lean. But again, not a game that I'm extremely bullish about, and nor one is it that I have bet myself just yet.
Okay, so I got in Wednesday at sunset, and I left Monday midday.
Which I appreciate the phone calls, the text messages. Hey, Todd, why don't you come out and have dinner? Todd, why don't you come out and have a drink? Nothing. Radio silence like a high school girlfriend I spurned 20 years ago.
No. I didn't want to be that guy that tried to, get into somewhere that you could get into. I was being polite not to call you. I was going to bring up 2 things. One, that it changed from the last time I was there for March Madness about 3 years ago, where everywhere I went, it was going to be about $200 a head for me to sit down at a good sports book. And I ended up paying it at a couple of places, but the sports books have gotten a lot better, a lot more build outs, just a wonderful time. I had a blast. But I was 4-21. Like from the no joke, from the Ohio State game, which I think was early window Friday, until I got an overhit in the Duke game barely. I was over. I went on an over run. I couldn't cash a ticket.
They say it's as difficult to go 21-4 as it is to go 4-21. Eventually the laws of probability work in your favor. The bigger question I have is, do you want me to put you in touch with one of my guys? I'm happy to take 10% of your losses if you want to continue betting the tournament going forward, or maybe even extend that relationship. But I am glad, Dunaway, you didn't ask for me to get you a DJ table at Omnia Nightclub. I wasn't sure if you were a Calvin Harris guy, but I can't imagine you spent $100 to go to Circus Swim and join a ratio that was about 97% men with their shirts off in the pool to the 2 or 3 women that I saw out there, most likely paid to be out.
I saw that picture. That was uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, the whole town was that way. It would seem to be guy to girl ratio was out of whack this week. It seemed to be crazy.
It's not an optimal time. If you're coming out here to look for talent or to socialize with co-eds, the opening weekend of March Madness is probably not going to do it justice by any stretch of the imagination. On the flip side, if you're a woman and you don't mind drunken stupidity and you want to meet men that are doing nothing but betting sports, you will have your pick of the litter more often than not out here. So maybe that's got to be on the next marketing pitch from the city of Las Vegas.
The most impressive thing I saw was you could not buy a Katy Perry Saturday night ticket anywhere on any of the services, whether it's Vivid, StubHub, anywhere. There was nowhere, not a ticket to be found, not one.
I feel like that's the most popular ticket that guys who actually bring their girlfriends out for that kind of weekend, that's the one that flies off of the shelf. So probably makes a whole lot of sense. Initially, Adele was supposed to be the headliner for some of the Caesars properties for this opening weekend, but since she postponed her residency, Katy Perry probably made the most attractive destination for those folks that had to win a few brownie points back home.
Jim Dunaway in Vegas. The lights are a little brighter after he left, right? You walked in and like, wow, why they got these lights so bright?
Yeah.
There may be a good chance that whatever sportsbook Dunaway decided to frequent, those diamond-encrusted cufflinks that sportsbook operators like to wear, they may have upgraded from about a quarter a carat to a full carat, given his tremendous losses at the window.
Hey, I'm very superstitious. I sprayed them all, man. I was like, oh, I'm a loser here.
Yeah.
We're going somewhere else. I was sprayed them all, man. It was horrible.
All right, he is Todd Fuhrman, at Todd Fuhrman on Twitter, bettheboardpodcast.com. See him on Outkick as well. Fuhrman, we greatly appreciate the time. Enjoy the Sweet 16.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Enjoy the great set of games that we have this weekend until we know the Final Four that'll be headed to New Orleans.
You too, buddy. Thanks, Fuhrman. We'll see you. Todd Fuhrman with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.